Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, let's talk about how to set boundaries with an avoidant. This was requested. It works for both fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant, female or male avoidant. Most of these things that are not specifically gender correlated, I have some videos that talk about the gender correlation, but there isn't much. And so I feel like getting too into the differences of certain things can just be more confusing, right? And some of you guys use like more extensive terminology regarding avoidant, like dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant. Based on the research, there are only 4 attachment styles. There are not subcategories. And it's fine if you guys use that. That's not an issue. But just based on the research, which is all that I like to use, there's fearful avoidant / disorganized. They're the same thing. Dismissive avoidant, anxious, preoccupied, and secure. And so using all the little subcategories that people are coming up with, which is okay. If it helps you guys, that's fine. But I'm not going to do that because that's not based on research and that's just made up by somebody, and that's okay. That is all right. But research is different than just coming up with a term. Research is like extensive, and we follow people. Like the research for attachment theory, they followed from birth to adulthood. That was the research. It was a long, extensive research. And a lot of you guys from my other channel know that I go into like the details of research. So I prefer things more based on research. But whatever you guys want to watch, regardless, take everything I say or anybody says with a grain of salt, right? I am learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm not perfect. And you guys are the experts of yourselves. I'm not. And I don't know, like there are things I don't know anything about. So please, if you don't agree with something I'm saying, you might be right. And if you don't agree with another person on YouTube or whatever, you might be right. Don't trust everything you hear. Vet it, even me. And I actually, especially me, because I'm the one telling you, like trust yourself. That's what I want. Also, a lot of you guys are asking about the updates on my practice. And we're going to talk about that stuff at the end of the video today because I have information for you. I'm not fully done with it, but it's like almost like I'm just about ready to set services for you guys. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then I'll make a separate video when I have fully launched it. Because there was some stuff that I had to separate because I have a clinical license. We'll talk about that at the end of this video, okay? So the first one is you want to get clear on what you need, okay? Before you say anything, you want to figure out where your limits are. Ask yourself, what behaviors from another person or yourself, right? We have to set boundaries with ourselves too. What makes us feel uncomfortable or drained? Okay, so that's one. The next one is, what do you need more of? Do you need space? You need reassurance? You need honesty? Do you need time alone? Do you need acknowledgement? That's one that I need a lot of, so that's why I picked that one. Maybe you guys don't need that one. I need that. I need acknowledgement that I did a good job, right? You guys can make fun of me all you want, like you're, like, I don't know, I just do. Like if I do something, I want to know I'm doing it right. And it's usually behavioral stuff. Like I cook for my significant other a lot. I don't need him to say, hey, you did a good job making that soup. That's not what I need. I need, if I did something that I put a lot of effort in that I wouldn't have done if he didn't ask for, I want acknowledgement. Hey, you're on the right path, so that I can feel motivated to continue. But anyways, tangent. The next one is, what are you no longer willing to tolerate? If you're vague with yourself, you're going to be vague with your avoidant partner, and that's where confusion starts, and they're already not very motivated. And so, some of them. And so you need to have motivation for yourself so that you can sometimes reflect that and also model that as well. So now that you got that figured out, and we're going to talk a little bit how to figure out just briefly, if you feel like you don't understand where you're at in the relationship, you probably need reassurance and direct communication. If you feel like your partner is hiding things, or you feel like you have to read them, maybe you want a little bit more direct honesty. Whether they're lying or not, that's not really up to me or even you to decide. They're going to have to tell you that. Maybe you feel like your partner is always like invading on certain times that you need time for yourself. Maybe you need space. Maybe you feel like you're always around them and it's making you feel irritated. Maybe you need time alone. And so that's how you figure it out. Acknowledgement was mine, and I gave an example. For me, if you want me to change something, and I tell anybody who tells me to change things all the time, because ever since I was a kid, people always ask me to change things. I think it's because of my attachment style. I'm not sure, but like that was always a thing. Always, I swear, like always need to change. And it was like, that was what made me so resistant to change. Excuse me, because it makes me feel like there's something wrong with me. And there was, to some extent, there was an attachment issue, but I didn't know that at first. So I didn't know why I have to be like this and everybody else is allowed to be that way. Why are people allowed to complain about certain things, but when I want to be by myself, that's a problem, right? But I didn't realize what was going on. But for me, now as an adult, I say, you can ask me to change. I'll probably do it. But my thing is, I need time. Do not push me. And then also, when I do it, acknowledge. Even if it's like a little step, right? Acknowledge it. My mom is always like, you need to be more open about your emotions. You need to be more honest with me. I'm your mom. You have to tell me how you're feeling. You know, all my other daughters say it. How come you don't? I always say, please don't compare me. I hate comparisons. And she apologizes. She's changed a lot, by the way. She's anxious, preoccupied, but she's getting better. And then another thing is I always say, but have I gotten better? And she's like, yeah, you've gotten better. So when you tell me that, don't just start saying you never do this. Tell me that I've gotten better first, and I'm more likely to hear you. Little bit of a tangent, but a lot of you guys want to know information because a lot of you guys are with people who have the attachment style I used to have. And so I'm just telling you how it works for us. The next one is communicate directly, not aggressively, with facts. So now that you know what you want and what you're missing, you want to communicate and directly. And why I mention with facts is because facts can help avoidance even if it's triggering at first, but it does help because it clarifies, okay? And so, for example, let's talk about they have canceled on you recently, which is really common with avoidance in the first year of a relationship. And we will talk about how avoidants act in the stages of the relationship at one point. It's just that may take like a really long time. Yes, I'll do it at one point. I will. I may have to break it up though. But let's just say you never see me. You never make time to see me. That's not a clear boundary or an instruction, right? And I'm using the word boundary loosely, by the way. We don't need to go into the semantics. I'm not a person who's like super into semantics. It just makes things more confusing. But you guys can infer, I hope. When somebody says you never make time to see me, to an avoidant, that sounds like a complaint, a criticism. That doesn't sound like you're setting a boundary and saying, I don't like that this is occurring in my life. I have to take action on it. That's not what it sounds like at all, okay? So let's readjust that so it makes more sense to an avoidant. And it sounds like a boundary, but it's also like instruction-based, okay? Let's just say you said it like this. Just an example. I wanted to share this with you because I feel it's important for our communication. You tend to cancel on me about 50% of the time, at least as of recent, and I haven't seen you in weeks. I'm worried, but I'm also frustrated. And I want us to get on the same page. What can we do so we can see each other more? I'm open to hearing your side. That's really important. They're still going to react, by the way. Some of them, not all of them, but they will react. And why did I put the 50% of the time thing in there? That's going to make them mad, but it also is going to help them in the long run. I'm going to explain that. If you say that, a lot of avoidance will be like, is it really 50% of the time? Are you sure? You can say, yeah, I wanted to make sure before I had this conversation, I prepared in advance and I've been checking a little bit, not because I'm trying to check on you, because I want to make sure my facts are straight, because I never want to come to you too emotional and not knowing what I'm talking about. Immediately, that's going to help lower their defenses because it makes them feel like you're respecting them. It's actually respect. You prepared this conversation in advance. You didn't just throw it at them emotionally. No, you took time to really make sure what you're saying is true before you bring it to them. And you're not blaming them. All you're saying is this is a circumstance that you two will fix together. And that will make it a lot easier for them. The next one is you do want to allow the other person to react. When you set your boundary, whatever version that you want to, I trust that you guys know how to some extent, right? I'm sure you don't know how to fully, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. But I trust that you're starting to get the idea. And we're going to make more. We're going to make more videos on this, okay? Because I always touch on topics multiple times because people are new, people need refreshers, etc. But you want to let that person react. Not everyone will immediately respond well to your boundaries. That's okay. They might be confused. They might push back. That doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means the dynamic is changing. And people who are learning to be healthy learn to adjust over time. And you can say that I appreciate that maybe I didn't say it the best way. I'm still working on this as well, but I'm speaking like this because I want our communication to be clearer and I don't want us to keep going back and forth, right? I just want this to work for both of us. And I want to hear your side. I want you to hear my side, right? That's really important. The next one is do not expect them to know just what you want, right? You don't want to expect that they will immediately know what you're asking for, even if you ask for it in the way that you feel best. And I'm going to explain this. You're going to have to ask them multiple times sometimes. And even if you feel like something makes a lot of sense, you might have to break it up. And I remember this was a big issue with pretty much any like with my significant other, this was an issue for both of us, but it was also an issue that we both had with like our friends, our families, and it was always an issue for both of us where people thought we would know something that we didn't know. And he did that with me. I did it with him too, but I stopped doing it, but he did it a lot with me, which was difficult, where he thought I would just understand something that I didn't. And to me, I became frustrated because I felt like he was almost purposely withholding something that could help, and he was just making me guess what he needed, even though that's not what was happening at all. And that was in my head, but that's what avoidance will start thinking. Don't make them guess. If you have some information that can help, just tell them. The next one is giving too much time before having the first conversation. This can actually make it more difficult for them and more difficult for you. If, for example, that they laughed at you if you tripped. This is annoying and I think it's immature, but some folks do it. It's okay. And if you guys do it, I'm not making fun of you. I think it's just annoying. But let's just say they did that. Not really attachment issue, just something kind of people do. And you're like, I don't like that. It's disrespectful. Say that right away. I mean, what's the point in letting it bottle up? Now, of course, some things need rapport and time built, so you guys be the judge of that. But in general, certain types of disrespect, you want to mention that right away. The next one is you want to use flexible language in regards to compromise. All this really means is add what are your thoughts, how do you feel, etc., your version of it at the end of what you're trying to say. The last one is actually, let's break the last one up into two pieces. You want to ask what you need to improve on from them, and then you also want to revisit topics that maybe you haven't had much success with them when time has passed, when more rapport has been built. So let's summarize, okay? The first one is you want to be clear on what you need. The next one is you want to communicate directly. The third one is you want to allow the other person to react. You want to not expect them to read your mind. You don't want to give them too much time before a behavior that you want changed. How do I even say this? Did I say it clearly the first time? You don't want them to just linger and continue these behaviors that you feel is maladaptive or unhealthy. You want to say it right away. You want to use flexible language. You want to ask them what they think you need to improve on, and you want to work on that as well. And then you want to revisit topics again that once time has passed, when rapport is built. So that's this part of the video. If you guys want to click off, you can. Now I'm going to talk about like the practice information that we've been touching on and I've been telling you about. So here are the services that I'm trying to implement, and I'm pretty much done. Okay, so you guys know I'm a therapist, and some of you guys actually found my Psychology Today profile, and I appreciate that you haven't said my name. I'm going to tell you my name in like a week or two once I get those things set up. But the reason why is because some people will contact me and I still won't have things ready, and then I'll back things up. So that's why I haven't done that yet. So I will tell you that like I hope in like a week or two. That's my aim, because I just finished some stuff last night and it looks like I'm just about ready. So that's one thing, okay? I'm a therapist, I'm licensed, and what I realize is I'm licensed in only a couple of jurisdictions, right? And so I can't see all of you. And I looked at like the people who watch my videos. Of course, like barely any of you are in my state, which I'm not surprised. Most of you guys are like in more like California, Florida, Texas. My dad's in Florida, so I get it. Population is huge. So you guys are not really where I'm from, so it's not going to help. And so I was like, okay, let me look into consulting. However, consulting is tricky because I don't want to get my license. Like I have to look in the ethics of that. And that is what took me so long, because I needed to make sure. And so what I found, okay, so consulting is different than therapy, okay? And I'm going to have to write those in my forms, of course. Therapy is like typically I see you once a week. It's billable by insurance. I'm an out-of-network provider. But what that means is if you have out-of-network benefits, you can get reimbursement. I'll just give you the super bill, etc. So that's how therapy works. I give you a diagnosis, and that's your diagnosis. It's in your medical file. It's there, okay? I write progress notes. We do treatment plans, and I write psychotherapy notes. But psychotherapy notes are a little bit different. They're very, very private. Basically, it's going to be very hard for anyone to get their hands on those psychotherapy notes for a reason. Everything's confidential, right? But even I'm not even going to talk about that on here because you don't need to know that information. It's too much information. So that's therapy, okay? That's under my clinical license, right? That is under my license. However, in terms of consulting, anyone can do consulting, relationship consulting. Anyone. You don't have to have a license or anything. And that makes it tricky because it's even harder for people who have a license, right? Because we have ethics that other people do not have. And so I have to follow my board ethics, but I also cannot use my license to do that. So they have to be separate. So what I did with my practice, I don't need to tell you about the way my practice is set up, but the best way to put it is they're separate. And so I have to have two separate websites, and they have to be like separately completely. And obviously, at least for me, I have to put a lot of measures into that. So I have to have an intake form that mentions this is not therapy. But another thing is, if I see you in terms of consulting, you cannot be my patient in therapy because dual relationship laws. And there were a lot of other things that I had to figure out on the back end that you guys don't need to know. But basically, I asked some therapists in my area who do consulting as well, what they do to separate it and how they make sure that they're not like blurring the ethical lines, because that is really important, okay? And I had to learn all of that as well. The other thing I'm trying to set up, which I'm still not fully done with, is like emailing, where you can email like one question, but I have to get the rules of that as well. But I think it's going to be okay. But the consulting part where like you guys can see me one-on-one, I pretty much have that pretty much down. I have like all of that figured out. So that's why it took so long, because I'm not just a random person that can just start consulting. I can't. I have a license, and I'm not going to, like, I can get in a lot of trouble if things go wrong, which you guys understand that, right? And so that's coming in like a couple weeks. Like, it could be in a week. I'm not sure. But once I get that set up, I will make a video on detailing all of the services, what services are in what area, what uses my license, what doesn't, and what are the differences between them, so that you guys understand everything that's going on. Because maybe it's just for me, because I needed to really understand the details of it so that things can be correct and proper. So you guys will see that soon. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.